On Ticker, this is Import Export with Lawrence Christophels.
From CBFCA, and we're joined now by Zoran to talk about a whole range of updates. Thanks, Zoran, for joining me. How are you?
Good morning, Lawrence, and thank you for having me on the show. I'm well, as you can see, working from home today, like every other Australian, doing our bit.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think it's definitely a whole new world that we're living in with remote working, and it's good to see that you're safe and well, mate. So thanks for joining us. I wanted to kick off, Zoran. Obviously, with the CBFCA, you're at the cold face of all the border control and all these sort of things. What's the latest for yourself from Air and Sea? What's the current impact on COVID-19 here in Australia?
Yeah, look, the latest confusion in industry is about with lockdowns. There's a lot of fear about what is considered essential. A business is going to be operational, and what I can share with the listeners is that freight and logistics is considered as an essential service. There's a lot of industry bodies and stakeholders and companies lobbying for that. And as we have seen around the world, even during a lockdown or increased restrictions, essential services, freight supply chains are operating. Yes, they will be impacted. They will be a little bit slower because of all the restrictions. But at this point, we have seen that the supply chain is operating to deliver essential goods and services to the consumers.
And what are the type of restrictions that are currently in place? And is there any sort of talk or rumours about what may increase from a restriction point of view?
Well, we have seen the travel restriction has had a significant impact on the aviation industry. What we are seeing at the moment, because aviation is critical to moving essential goods, a lot of the airlines are converting some of the passenger aircrafts to move freight. We have seen an increase of air freight charters. A lot of the big companies and also freight forwarders are providing charter services. Capacity is very, very low. However, there are services that are operating, so to moving these critical goods to the consumers.
And I'm guessing that increases the lead times as well for these typical overnight domestic transport or even international cargo, with all these reduced number of services and separate charter flights, that the lead times plus the cost is probably seriously impacted as well.
Definitely, lead time and cost. While there are services, there's also airline sort of restrictions. Some airports have different restrictions. The International Air Transport Association is pushing globally for governments to provide support to the aviation industry, because they believe that aviation saves lives. So if you can get the medical goods to the market quickly, because there is a significant demand, we need to make sure that all the complex issues that are around different countries, different airports, they are resolved to allow movement of freight quicker.
Yeah, just I think on that as well, Zoran, question without notice. I heard that Agility's been sort of put into a bit of a support program with the Defence Department to try and help move cargo around, like those emergency services and medicines and so forth. Is that something you've heard as well?
Definitely. Freight forwarding is a sector that we can't just stay still. A lot of the air freight forwarders are definitely looking at for innovative ways. They're chartering, they're helping other freight forwarders to slot charter, share volumes. So in these difficult times, the freight forwarding industry proves again it's an essential service, and it is important that we unite together and provide whatever services available, not only for a commercial business advantage, but also help other businesses to be able to consolidate the goods. At the end of the day, it's important to get these goods to the right people in such crisis.
Yeah, no, it's a really important message that you're saying there, Zoran, is that as an industry, as a community, we really need to all support each other and increase that volume of economies of scale, if you like, to make sure it's feasible and viable for everyone to succeed and survive through this process. I wanted to ask, Zoran, so things like these, we hear on the news about the border shutdowns. How is that affecting the domestic trade and freight movements around the country with different states shutting their borders? How does that apply to trucks and transport or as you mentioned before, some of the air freight?
Yeah, certainly. At the moment, there are state border closures. all of the states, with an exception to New South Wales and Victoria, have closed the borders. However, having said that, a lot of the transport associations are lobbying government, and there is a confirmation that the borders will be open for freight and logistics. No different to the global borders that you're allowing freight, the domestic supply chain has to operate.
Yep.
We as consumers require the goods to be moved. A lot of the fruits and vegetables from Queensland have to go to other states. So there will be no restriction to freight. There may be some slow processing at the borders, but again, the transport associations are lobbying to find better and more efficient way to move the trucks quicker through those restricted borders. But freight and transport will operate in Australia, I can assure you that, and there's been confirmation from local governments and other trade association bodies.
That's great. What about port congestion and getting cargo that is arriving from overseas? Is there current congestion at the moment? Are we at sort of full capacity? As an essential service, I'm assuming all the workers at the ports, and both seaports and airports, are still working at normal capacity, or has that been reduced? Is that something you could sort of help us shed some light on?
Yeah, ports and airports are definitely operating. They are also considered essential service. And we have seen a reduction in volume. So from a reduction, we're about a 10% reduction in trade volume at the Australian ports, and similar and more in other parts of the world. So there's no port restrictions apart from the normal crew and pilots screening, the 14 days, on sea to make sure, from the biosecurity type of human intervention. But the ships are allowed to come into the country. There are no restrictions. There is a recent development in Queensland. Ships that come out of South Korea and China, they need to be at sea for 14 days if they have visited those countries before they can berth at Port of Brisbane, but that's the only exception. But ports are operating efficiently. We just need more cargo to come into the country.
Yeah, I think it sounds like that the low volume of cargo that we're experiencing now is because of the impact that China had probably 2 months ago when this outbreak first started and the shutdown over February there. So is that what you're seeing as well? Is that sort of lag between that production? And have you heard that production is coming back coming back online again in China?
Yeah, definitely. The China being the biggest trading nation for Australia has definitely had an impact on volume. However, China is confirming that they're almost up to full production capacity. You will see that the volumes out of China will continue to grow. One of the challenges in China, however, is the capacity of equipment. Empty containers, shipping lines are trying to reposition more empty containers back into the China to be able to service the demand. So it might take some weeks before the ships start to bring in empty containers to meet that extra demand. So in the next few months, we will see a lot more freight coming out of China, certainly.
Good. Okay. Well, hopefully, that all gets back to the local distributors and suppliers so they can get back things out into market, especially obviously the safety gear that we're all looking forward to receiving soon as well. Zoran, what about the CBFCA? I mean, working remotely, working from home, I'm assuming there's a whole range of opportunities now for people in the sector, while they're working at home, is to maybe do some upskill, do some webinars, some courses. Do you guys have anything on the radar that's coming up over the coming weeks or months? Right. So I'll just cross back to Zoran now just to wrap that last part of that up. Zoran, sorry mate, we had a bit of a technical glitch. I think everyone's online at the moment, so we have a few hiccups.
Yes, our industry sector is geared to operate from home. The freight forwarding sector and the broking sector, the automation, the infrastructure is all there. Workflow, they're able to assist the clients and facilitate trade regardless where they are. A lot of the workforce operates from home and some from work, so trying to maintain that social distance and health and safety of their staff. We as an association will most likely be moved to a bit more online training, getting information to our members through the online platform. We have that platform, and we will continue to share information during these difficult times.
Great.
To keep members informed.